Florence Eisman Incorporated is a Milwaukee-based manufacturer of better children's wear. What began as gifts of little girls' dresses to special friends, designed and sewn by Florence Eisman, has evolved into a business with national and international distribution. Since its beginning 40 years ago, the Eisman name has become synonymous with superior quality and striking design. As a creative and talented dressmaker, Florence Eisman recognized a need for better design and quality in children's wear. She felt that the typical ruffles and lace design of the time had little imagination, and she wanted to produce something different. One of her keys to success, and what ultimately has become her trademark, has been elegantly simple structural design, carefully executed in fine fabric. Unique and whimsical appliques, tastefully done, as well as imported laces and embroideries, are also recognizable features of many Eisman garments. In the 1950s, the business truly became a family enterprise when sons Lawrence and Robert joined the firm. During the next 2 decades, Florence Eisman Incorporated tested new markets, expanded its product line, and acquired a global perspective through annual trips to Europe to buy fabrics and observe European fashions. Today, Robert and Lawrence Eisman manage the business. Florence Eisman, who is now in her 80s, serves in an advisory capacity, primarily in the design area, where she still has the last word. Eisman designs often begin with an idea inspired by carefully selected fabric and trims. It often takes several working sketches or croquis and a lot of manipulating and experimenting before the right combination of structural design and fabric and trim begins to emerge in the designer's mind. The designer may begin by experimenting with the fabric. At Eisman's, draping is a very important design tool. Structural details of a design are worked out on a 3-dimensional body form in the fashion fabric. Working on the body form helps the designer in making judgments about garment proportions, such as the yoke placement, and width and depth of the neckline and armhole. Working with the fashion fabric is essential in this design because it enables the designer to see the immediate effect of the stripe when combined in a vertical and horizontal position. The weight and stiffness of the fabric affect decisions about the amount of flare added at the side seams. The designer checks the hem placement to be sure it's appropriately located in relation to the diagonal yoke line. When the designer is satisfied with the basic structural design, she experiments with the addition and placement of trims. Use and placement of these appliques are critical to the style and the aesthetic appeal of the garment, and the care and attention given to these design components exemplify the Eisman tradition. Once the designer is satisfied with the placement, trims are secured and the design sheet prepared. The specifications on the design sheet include a sketch of the front and back views, fabric swatches, and specific details and instructions that the designer considers important. The completed drape, accompanied by the design sheet, is then sent to the pattern room. Often the same fabric is used in several different garments, with slight variations in detail and silhouette. Designs are varied for the brother-sister look and for differences in size and body proportions, and this adds dimension and versatility to the line. The sample pattern maker uses the designer's drape and the design sheet to create the first pattern. The sample sewer follows the specifications from the design sheet and makes up the first garment of each style. When the sample is approved, it becomes the prototype, taken by sales representatives to retailers to determine whether demand justifies mass production. If enough orders are placed, the sample garment is used as the guide in developing the production pattern. Special details, such as these pleats, are worked out on pattern paper before the basic block is applied. Sewing methods are discussed, and slight changes may be made to make the garment more producible. Once the production pattern is factory tested and perfected, it's sent to the computer room for grading and making the marker. At Eisman, pattern information is fed into the computer by using a digitizer. The equipment consists of the digitizer table, in which there is a free-moving cursor with communication buttons, keyboard, and command boxes. The cursor is used to enter all pattern data, piece numbers, size ranges, piece perimeters, notches, internal points, grade points, and special grade instructions. An interactive graphic display terminal, equipped with a screen and keyboard, serves as the primary workstation. But once the data are fed into the computer, the operator can command and view the data stored. Pieces are verified and changes made for grading or marker making. Graded pattern pieces can be nested for study and verification. In marker making, the computer uses the stylus pen and tablet to place and arrange the pattern pieces on the screen. As the marker is developed on the terminal, pieces can be moved and rearranged for maximum utilization of fabric before a hard copy is made. The plotter prints out the actual full-size marker with pattern placements and fabric match lines just as they appeared on the screen. The plotter draws each pattern piece and labels it for immediate identification in cutting and bundling. When needed, fabric match points are also included for proper alignment and spreading. The printed marker is the blueprint for the cutting room. At Florence Eisman, correct placement of fabric design is very important. The stripes of the fabric are built into the design of the garment. They're centered in front and back and aligned with waistbands and collar ends and pocket to produce the most appealing effect. Fabric swatches are superimposed on the marker to ensure accurate interpretations and placement in spreading. The next step is fabric spreading, or laying out the fabric in lengths predetermined by the cutting order and marker. Spreading machines can either be stationary or traveling. What we see here is a portable stationary spreader, which is best suited for short spreads or spreads with few plies. This particular fabric is a lycra and nylon swimsuit fabric, which has a pronounced diagonal stripe. To meet quality specifications, it must be spread face up, one way, in order that the stripes run the same direction on each ply. Extra care is needed when spreading this fabric because of its stretch in hand. It's being spread manually to avoid distortion and excess tension. Two spreaders unwind the cloth, align each ply, and smooth the surface before the automatic cutting device severs the fabric across the width. The cutting device is a rotary blade mounted on a trolley or movable belt, which the operator engages after the ply is spread. This is an electronically operated traveling spreader. The fabric is positioned at the end of the lay, and each ply aligned before cutting from the bolt. This fabric is being spread face one way and with varied ply lengths to correspond with cutting orders for specific sizes. This spread is being cut with a portable straight knife machine. It's imperative that the knife follow the exact lines on the marker and maintain a 90-degree pitch to the spread in order to ensure uniformity from top ply to the bottom ply. The knife must be slowly propelled into the spread in order to prevent bunching ahead of the blade, which would result in inaccuracy and poor cutting quality. Once the spread is cut, the cutter marks each block as indicated on the marker. Extreme care must be taken so that the notches are accurate and at the correct depth. Die cutting is used for the many varied and intricate appliques that are unique to Florence Eisman designs. Die cutting is consistent and accurate. It's the only way to achieve perfection and uniformity of small pieces, such as those for appliques. Die cutting is a labor-intensive process because the die must be repositioned by the operator for each cut. Also, the number of plies that can be cut at one time is limited by the depth of the die. Dies are reusable, and every die made is cataloged for future use. Any design can be used in new combinations of color and fabrics and placement. At Eisman's, entire walls are covered with dies. During the bundling operation, pieces are inspected, sorted, grouped, wrapped, and ticketed for the sewing floor. As the bundles come from the cutting area, they're checked to make sure that the block is consistent in size and marking. As a quality control measure, bundlers will often spot check to make sure that pieces at the top of the block are the same size as those in the middle and the bottom of the stack. Markings are also checked to make sure that they're visible, correctly placed, and at a consistent depth. If the fabric tends to close up easily, or if a series of operations would be performed before the garment is appliqued, bundlers remark the drill holes with a washout pencil. And this is an additional step made by Florence Eisman to assure a high level of quality in the construction of the garment. The sewing floor at Eisman's is equipped primarily with basic lock stitch and chain stitch machines. And these are very versatile and can be used to perform a variety of functions. This type of equipment is necessary to accommodate the fashion influence and great variety in the styling that they use. Applying appliques and trims is an important part of the sub-assembly process at Eisman's. Appliques are the dress-up part of Eisman's designs and are used on approximately 60 to 80% of their garments. They may be totally stitched down or have loose, purled edges. Appliques provide both continuity and variety to the line. The operators apply the appliques using previously marked drill holes that show the exact placement of each part. Each segment is sewn separately with matching thread and in a specific order to produce the desired effect. Notice the decorative and functional use of applique on this swimsuit. The shoulder strap is a continuation of the fabric stripe that creates the stem of the flower. The trim on the cover-up is also dual purpose. It creates a flower stem and it binds the edge. Various attachments are used to improve the efficiency and speed of these machines. They assist by folding and guiding and positioning the work for the operator. This folder is being used to set the bias trim on a sailor collar. It positions the trim and folds it by turning in both raw edges before sewing them down with a double needle. The guide at the right of the needle on this machine helps the operator keep the stitching a specified distance from the edge of the fabric. Notice the operator chaining off as she sews each collar section. Now, this is much more efficient than sewing and stacking each piece separately. The trim on this swimsuit was applied in a similar manner as that on the collar, except that it was done on a double needle chain stitch machine. The chain stitch allows more stretch and is less likely to break on a stretchy fabric that is subject to a lot of stress. The operator working on this lavender and white striped dress is performing two separate operations to eliminate excessive handling. In the first process, the operator is folding and stitching a center zipper application. The ends of the zipper tape have been previously caught in the neckline seam, so that the operator is simply folding the fabric along a stripe and stitching it to the zipper. Notice the precise folding and stitching along a specific stripe. The machine being used is a computerized single-needle lock stitch. It has an electronic control unit, which allows the operator to set the machine to perform a number of different functions that have been programmed into the computer. The second process this operator is performing is setting lifts or supports for the puffed sleeve. This adds hanger appeal, and it helps the sleeve to retain the full, finished fashion look that is desired. Pressing in process plays a very important part in the production of quality garments. It produces flatter seams, sharper edges, and greater accuracy during the assembly process. Notice the varied types of pressing being done at Eisman. Some operators are applying fusible interfacing to small specific areas to give added reinforcement, while others are creasing hems for increased accuracy in sewing. Seams are also being pressed open for a flatter, smoother appearance. The equipment in this area is versatile and adapts well for many functions. Notice the suspended irons that are carefully positioned to make the work less tiring and more efficient. Final pressing and inspection are the last steps in the quality control process before the garments are ready for market. The couture line at Eisman is a recent development begun in response to the demand from a very specialized and limited target market, in this case, upper-end specialty retailers. Special features incorporated to achieve this couture quality include the use of imported fabrics, laces, trims, and hand-sewn finishing details. Handwork on this silk shantung dress is evident on the trim, hem, lining, and label. Quality begins with the conception of the garment and is incorporated into all components and stages of production, from design to consumer use. Every manufacturer must define and establish the type and level of quality needed in order to satisfy the target market. The classic style and simplicity of Eisman designs show an unusually perceptive understanding of children and their needs. Styles are developed to fit the changing body proportions of the growing child. They allow freedom of movement and ample room to grow. Classic designs and superior quality level have been a hallmark of the Eisman tradition throughout its 40-year history.